Hello and welcome to RLT Channel, a broadcast dedicated to a disease that impacts all of us in one way or another, cancer. And in this month's Cancer Awareness Month, we will take a closer look at a subject impacting the lives of many men, prostate cancer. And this program has been specifically designed to inform you about a new treatment that's proven highly effective in recent years, radioligand therapy, RLT, sometimes associated to the term radiotheranostics. But what is it concretely? Well, it's an innovative approach that uses targeted molecules to deliver radiation doses directly to cancer cells to destroy them while minimizing the effects on healthy tissues. So as you can see, these treatments represent a major hope for cancer patients, particularly to those who have not responded to commonly used therapies. So maybe you or a loved one has been diagnosed with prostate cancer and you hear about complex terms like PSA, high risk of metastatic disease or radioactive compounds. So yes, it is frightening, but it's also very important to be well informed. And this is why our aim today is to demystify radioligand therapy by providing clear and practical information to help you better understand how this therapy works, its potential benefits, and how it can be integrated into your care journey. And to do so, we have invited experts in the field, nuclear medicine physicians, oncologists, but also people who have benefited from this therapy to share their journey with us. And before we start, please note that you can ask your questions, make comments, or share your story at any time by sending an email to the address care@oncidium-life.org, and we'll make sure all your questions receive an expert's answer within the 72 hours. Now, let's dive in and explore this life-changing technology together. Prostate cancer is one of the most common cancers in men today. And every year, over 1.4 million new cases are diagnosed worldwide, representing around 15% of all male cancers. These statistics are quite alarming. And of course, early detection is essential. But once diagnosed, and whatever the stage of the disease, everyone should have access to a full range of options and personalized treatment. And one of these options is radioligand therapy. And to better understand what is it and how it is revolutionizing cancer treatment, we are privileged to welcome Professor Zena Wimana. Thank you very much for being with us today. You are a recognized expert in the field, and you are the director of the radiopharmacy at the University Hospital of Brussels. That includes Erasmus and the Institute Jules Bordet, which is pioneer in the field in Belgium. You have 15 years of experience in the field, and you've always been passionate about this rapidly evolving technology with numerous scientific publications. In 2023, you successfully realized a significant project with the Institute Jules Bordet, the Radiotheranostics Center of Excellence. Congratulations for that. And you are also professor of radiopharmacy at the Free University of Brussels. So, Professor Wimana, could you please explain the concept, the origin, and how does this therapy works?
Yes, so maybe we first go back to the origin and how it started, the use of radioactivity for medical purposes. And so this was one of the reasons of the creation of Institut Jules Bordet, the hospital where I work now, to be able to use radioactivity to treat cancer patients. So this led to a discipline that is called nuclear medicine. And nuclear medicine, we have the advantage of using radioactivity either for imaging, and we can do it using two technologies, PET or SPECT, but also to use radioactivity to treat patients, to have a radioactivity that will be injected to patients to target specifically cancer cells. So how does it work? If we look here at a cancer cell has overall characteristics that are overexpressed on the membrane. And so, for example, you will have a protein, an enzyme that is overexpressed on these cancer cells. The idea is that we will use a vector, a molecule that will target specifically these characteristics, such that we only target the cancer cell. What we will do, our specialty, is to add radioactivity to this molecule, and so that we will be able first to use radioactivity to visualize, to view where the cancer cells are in the patients. So we will do imaging with PET or SPECT. When we select our patients based on this imaging, we will then use therapy, using radioactivity with the same molecule, targeting the same characteristic and only targeting the cancer cell, so that we have like a nuclear bomb targeting the cancer cell and only the cancer cell, so that we have low toxicity. And with this, we will be able to first select our patient with the imaging and then treat our patient with the radioactivity.
Mm-hmm. So usually you say, here with the radioligand therapy, you see what you treat and you treat what you see. What are the benefits in visualizing the spread of the disease?
The idea behind it is that we will have personalized therapy for the patient. You will be able to select patients that will most benefit of this treatment, avoid giving unnecessary toxicities to this patient, because if they don't have the target, if we cannot visualize it, the treatment will not go there, and so the treatment will not serve to anything. So the idea behind it is higher efficacy, lower toxicity with this approach.
That's very clear, thank you. Could you please now explain how does it work specifically for prostate cancer?
Yes, so for prostate cancer, we have the advantage that we have several years of research looking at specific characteristics in prostate cancer. One of the well-known biomarkers in prostate cancer is a blood characteristic that is called PSA, prostate-specific antigen. And so instead of using the one that we can find in the blood, in our specialty, we wanted to target the one specifically on the cancer cell, on the membrane, that is called PSMA, so prostate-specific membrane antigen. We will use a ligand targeting this characteristic of PSMA, adding radioactivity for imaging with gallium-68 or fluorine-18, for example, to do PET imaging, select the patient based on that, and then we will use the same molecule, the same ligand, but we will move, instead of the diagnostic radioactivity, to a therapeutic one with lutetium-177 PSMA, for example. And in this way, we are sure that we will target the cancer cells and not the healthy organs of the patient.
That's very clear. Thank you very much. We will hear in this program that worldwide access is complicated. And you do at the Institut Jules Bordet have a program to help patients coming from other countries to have access to this therapy. Could you please further describe this?
Yes, because we are strong believers of this radioligand therapy. As you mentioned, we were pioneers in Institut Jules Bordet, we invested a lot, and our idea is that everyone should benefit of this great treatment that is radioligand therapy. So what we have proposed is that we have the possibility to actually welcome patients from all over the world to be treated in our institute. We have a program that is set where the patient will come 1 week in advance of the treatment, where we'll do the whole checkup that is necessary, and then we will treat the patient a week after that. The advantage that we have also, we have already set this up for several countries. For example, for Algeria, we have already a contract based on that, where we can receive the patient in our hospital, we treat them, and then they can go home. Why? Because this treatment has the advantage that we will only give it every 6 to 8 weeks, which is quite advantageous. The patient can go back home and come back to the next for the next treatment.
That's very interesting, Professor Wimana. I have one last question for you. Since we have seen that radioligand therapy is really promising, are there other cancer types that can be treated with it?
So in theory, the possibilities are infinite to treat other types of cancer with radioactivity. There are a lot of characteristics that we can target for different types of cancer. We first started already in the early 40s with using radioactivity to treat thyroid cancer, for example. There we didn't use a specific vector a specific molecule to target that, but only radioactivity. Then we had a big change with the beginning of treatment that we call theranostic in neuroendocrine tumor. There we use radioligand therapy targeting specific characteristic in this tumor. After, we went over to prostate cancer, a bigger group of patients that could benefit of this tremendous treatment. Now we are looking forward to treat other type of cancer, such as breast cancer and a specific part, the triple-negative breast cancer, who are quite aggressive disease, but also hematological cancer like multiple myeloma. We have in our institute 2 specific academic trials dedicated to use radioactivity in this type of purposes. But also the industry is investing a lot of money in other treatments, not targeting the cancer cell per se, but the tumor and the tumor microenvironment, so that we can target a lot of different tumors with one specific treatment.
Thank you very much, Professor Wimana, for putting science in very simple words. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now that we understand how it works, we'd like to know when it is an option for prostate cancer patients. And to answer this question, I'd like to welcome Dr. Nadia Withofs. Dr. Withofs, thank you very much for being with us. You are a nuclear medicine physician at the University Hospital of Liege in Belgium, and you are also professor at the University of Liege. And since this year, you are the president of the Belgian Association of Nuclear Medicine. That's very impressive. Thank you very much for being with us today. And I'd like to ask you a first question. Could you please explain when radioligand therapy using lutetium-177 PSMA is used for prostate cancer patients?
Currently, the radioligand therapy using lutetium PSMA ligand is indicated in patients with metastatic prostate cancer with an advanced disease. And these patients have already received anti-hormonal therapy and chemotherapy. So the use of the radioligand is after chemo. But in comparison with chemotherapy, the therapy using the radioligand lutetium PSMA gives less side effects compared to a chemotherapy. So the patient will keep a good quality of life all along the treatment. So we hope, and we would like to use the radioligand earlier in the course of the disease so that the patient could benefit from it before chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm. So as we can see, this therapy is very effective, but why isn't it more widely used?
These therapies using radioactive radioligands need a specific infrastructure. We need, for example, rooms dedicated to radioligand therapy because we have to collect the radioactive urines after injection. And all the hospitals do not have these specific rooms or do not have, they cannot afford the cost of building these specific rooms. So it's the first point, limiting the accessibility for the patient worldwide. The second point is that these radioligands is costly. The production of these radioligands is costly. And for many countries, they cannot afford the cost of these therapies. We're lucky in Belgium, these radioligands are reimbursed in the case of prostate cancer and neuroendocrine tumors, but it's not the case in many countries in the world.
Yeah, access remains a problem worldwide. Dr. Withofs, I have a very last question for you. How do you see the future of radioligand therapy in the coming years?
Radioligand therapy, it's beautiful because it targets specifically cancer cells so that the normal organs, they are not targeted. So patients will keep a good quality of life with a few side effects during treatment. So now the clinical trials, they have showed the efficacy in prostate cancer and neuroendocrine tumors, but now they're going to apply this to other cancer types. So is being assessed in breast cancer, for example, or pancreatic cancer, and we hope the results will show efficacy so that we would be able to apply this strategy to other cancer types.
Thank you very much, Dr. Withofs, for providing these explanations, and we can see there is a bright future for radioligand therapy.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Let's now listen to the testimonial of John-Antoine from Egypt, who is bringing here a lot of hope.
I'm John-Antoine. I'm a 66-year-old anesthesiologist, retired for the past 6 years now. Suddenly in July, the P.SMA showed a terrible spread of the tumor with a lot of abdominal lymph nodes, hilar lymph nodes, even one supraclavicular and one even suprarenal, much to my surprise again. And I started to look for treatment, and I went to the oncologist. And then I started to look on the internet, and this is where I came across lutetia. I took my first shot on the 2nd of September 24, which is today a month ago. It went just beautiful, and beautiful is the least I can say. The little bone pains that were there totally vanished, totally, literally as if by magic. My brain fog started to vanish. I became mentally alert. I suddenly became hungry, thirsty, and then I wanted to go out, and that night I particularly had an extremely peaceful sleep, something that I hadn't seen for the past 2 years at least. And all this went by without a single side effect, not a single one, not even some nausea, even something trivial. Nothing really at all to notice. I mean, it was as if I had taken a saline injection. And I'm now getting ready for my second shot, which is due in a week's time. And I really look forward to having it. I mean, today now I can cross my legs, something that I just couldn't do at the time. So I'm really impressed. I must say, I myself, being a professional myself, I find this really a major endeavor.
We also received the testimonial of Steve from Oklahoma, who is sharing also his story with us today.
It started January of 22. I had went to urologist, frequent urination at night. You wake up every hour, so I finally go to the doctor, and I said I need to do something. I said I'm peeing too often. I can't sleep at night. So he gave me some pills and said take these, you'll be okay. So 2 months later, I go back and I said the pills aren't working. He said, well, take these pills, they'll help. So I go back and he said, well, take both pills. Didn't work. Well, let's do a biopsy. I can't remember if I did a CAT scan. I guess I did a CAT scan second. Come back and I had cancer. Then I found out I also had heart trouble. So I had to have quadruple bypass in June of 22. So it was September of 22 before my heart had to heal, before they take my prostate out. So they took the prostate out in September 15th of 22. So then it was January before I could start treatment because I had to heal up from the prostate surgery, they said. Then they started me on chemo. I was on 4 rounds of chemo for 4 months and got to where I didn't have any side effects really, other than tiredness and weak. I wasn't sick. I could continue to work. And so I still work. I'm 74 years old, but I still work 12 hours a day. But anyway, I got off the chemo because it's summertime for me. The farm and the office is busy. So I got off of it, got on chemo pills. Chemo pills didn't do any good. The cancer come back. It spread to my liver, my spine, and ribs and clavicle. In January, they put me on Pluvicto, 6 rounds. And I completed the 6th round in, the 6th week of the 6th round was October, last of October. And my PSA went from 8 to 0.09. So that was really good numbers. But anyway, I feel good. I still work. Pluvicto, had trouble with fatigue and dry mouth. But other than that, no side effects other than fatigue and dry mouth. And now the Pluvicto's over with. She's going to start me on a new drug called olaparib. We'll start taking chemo pill olaparib twice a day. So that's where I'm at. On the Facebook page that I'm on with Pluvicto patients, a lot of people go overboard with the safety features of it. And I got cancer, so what's the big deal? I mean, like they tell me prednisone's bad for my health, but if I can work a few more days and stay out of the rocking chair, what's the side effect? As long as I can keep going and doing it and feel good, I'm not worried about it. I mean, the 3 days I slept in a different bedroom and used a different bathroom than my wife and I. And other than that, I didn't take too many precautions other than staying 3 feet away from people for more than 10 minutes at a time. I feel really, really, really fortunate that I got it, is how I feel. The cancer treatment place that I go to is huge. I asked her one day, how many people you run through here every day? She said between 580 and 620. And you know how many people? That whole bunch is on Pluvicto. There was 12 of us. So I felt really fortunate that my doctor that I didn't know from Adam hooked me up with Pluvicto, and my cancer was kind of been knocked back some. I see people on that page all the time that asking if they should take it or not, and I always encourage them to take it. I felt really fortunate that I was able to get it.
Thank you so much to both of you for sharing your inspiring journey with us. And we could see how important it is to have a proper access to radioligand therapy. We are now welcoming Dr. Vanhaudenarde. Thank you for being with us today. You are a medical oncologist at the CHU UCL of Namur in Belgium, and you have extensive expertise in urological as well as head and neck tumors. And you pay particular attention to supportive care, also known as integrative medicine, for an optimal support throughout their journey. And I have a first question for you. What is the supportive care and why is it important for cancer patients?
Alors, tout au long de son parcours, le patient va avoir un tas d'intervenants médicaux, qui soient l'oncologue, l'urologue, le radiothérapeute, le médecin nucléaire. Et en parallèle à tous ces médecins, il va y avoir différents intervenants qui vont être importants. Notamment, chez nous, il y a les coordinateurs de soins en oncologie qui sont particulièrement importants, qui sont en général des infirmiers. Ce sont des personnes qui vont être un lien entre les différents intervenants médicaux du patient, qui vont surtout être un lien pour le patient avec ces différents intervenants, qui vont être un lien avec le patient quand il est à la maison, qu'il a un problème, il va pouvoir le contacter, qui vont aussi être une aide pour la gestion des médicaments et pour la réexplication aussi des traitements. Parce que c'est vrai que les patients ont parfois besoin de réentendre les informations, de revulgariser certains éléments d'explication et ces intervenants-là vont être importants. Ça, c'est les premiers, je vais dire, intervenants paramédicaux qui sont importants dans la prise en charge des patients. À côté de ça, il y a aussi tous les espaces bien-être qui sont de plus en plus importants, qui sont de plus en plus développés en parallèle aux hôpitaux. Les maisons de ressourcement, etc. C'est des lieux importants où les patients peuvent d'abord se rencontrer entre eux, échanger entre eux, avoir aussi tout cet aspect bien-être qui soit développé. Et puis dans le cadre des cancers de la prostate, il y a un élément qui est quand même important, c'est l'activité physique qui va souvent être stimulée dans ces centres de bien-être aussi. On sait que les patients qui ont un cancer de la prostate ont une castration chimique qui augmente le risque d'un événement cardiovasculaire et pour limiter le risque pour limiter ce risque d'événements cardiovasculaires, l'activité physique elle est importante. Et donc ça, c'est quelque chose qui va être stimulé tout au long de la prise en charge. Et puis tous les autres éléments paramédicaux très importants, c'est évidemment le psychologue aussi. Certains patients ont vraiment besoin vite d'un contact avec un psychologue. Il y a aussi tous des autres intervenants, comme dans les patients quand ils sont à un stade plus avancé de leur maladie, il y a les équipes mobiles de soins palliatifs. Il y a tout ce panel-là, pour moi, fait partie de ce qu'on peut appeler cette médecine intégrative.
Thank you, Doctor. Could you please elaborate a bit more on how this relates to the role of patients' education and psychological support in managing patients' expectations and stress?
L'éducation du patient, elle est extrêmement importante, évidemment, et la meilleure manière d'éduquer les patients, c'est de leur expliquer clairement la situation, notamment lors de la première consultation. On va dire même lors des premières consultations, on sait qu'un patient, quand il rencontre pour la première fois un oncologue, il retient en moyenne 10% de ce que l'oncologue lui a raconté. Donc on les revoit souvent une fois, deux fois, très rapprochés pour bien réexpliquer les choses. Qu'est-ce que c'est expliquer la situation? C'est d'abord, leur donner leur diagnostic de façon claire, précise, le stade de la maladie, s'il y a des métastases ou pas, leur expliquer le plan de traitement, leur expliquer le pronostic de façon la plus claire possible dès le début. D'expérience, on sait que ça va permettre, une fois que les patients, même si les nouvelles ne sont pas bonnes, d'avoir une vision claire de la situation, ça les détend déjà par rapport à tout ça, d'avoir une idée claire aussi des projets, des perspectives par rapport à ça. C'est extrêmement important. Alors c'est sûr qu'il y a des gens plus stressés que d'autres par rapport à l'annonce d'un diagnostic. Ils vont appréhender tout ça d'une manière différente. C'est aussi un de nos rôles, c'est de bien connaître nos patients. Et les connaître, ce n'est pas juste l'aspect médical, c'est évidemment tous les à côté, l'aspect psychosocial, est-ce qu'ils sont entourés ou pas. Tous ces éléments-là vont être des éléments importants aussi pour mieux les connaître, les appréhender et pouvoir les orienter vers un psychologue aussi si à un moment donné, ils en font la demande. C'est quelque chose qui leur est proposé régulièrement et notamment au moment de l'annonce du diagnostic et à différents moments et chacun va plus ou moins avoir ce besoin. Ça dépend évidemment d'un patient à l'autre.
So, thank you for clarifying that. And I have a third question for you. Radioligand therapy requires expertise of a multidisciplinary team of specialists around the patient. Could you please explain how do you collaborate with other specialists to ensure the best possible results for your patients?
Alors, quand un patient a un cancer, ça vaut pour les cancers de la prostate, mais même pour tous les cancers, les décisions thérapeutiques, elles sont prises en réunions multidisciplinaires d'oncologie. Donc, c'est des réunions qui sont en général hebdomadaires où vont se réunir tous les spécialistes du cancer. Alors, pour les cancers de la prostate, ce sera l'urologue qui a fait le diagnostic, ce sera l'oncologue, le radiothérapeute, le médecin nucléaire. On va diagnostiquer, initialement, on va évoquer le cas et donc prendre le meilleur plan de traitement. Et ça va être quelque chose qui est fait au départ, mais aussi à chaque moment où il y a une progression. Et notamment, si à un moment donné, il y a une progression qui justifierait un traitement par radioligand, ça va être discuté lors de ces réunions. Ça, c'est le premier élément où il y a vraiment cette concertation. Dans le cadre spécifique du traitement par radioligand, on sait que c'est un traitement qui va impliquer plusieurs intervenants et certainement le médecin nucléaire et l'oncologue. Une des bonnes approches, à mon avis, pour permettre une bonne coordination et que le patient se sente en continuité des soins, ça va probablement être de faire des consultations conjointes avec le nucléariste qui lui expliquera l'aspect thérapeutique proprement dit, alors que l'oncologue restera en parallèle, c'est un oncologue qui connaîtra probablement déjà le patient depuis plusieurs mois ou plusieurs années, mais restera en parallèle pour lui expliquer aussi l'aspect pronostic, l'aspect thérapeutique. Donc il y a une collaboration qui devra se faire certainement aussi dans la prise en charge des patients à ce niveau-là.
In Belgium, radioligand therapy is used as a third-line treatment. Could you explain what that means and why?
Alors chaque traitement en oncologie, chaque nouveau traitement, il est validé via des études cliniques qui vont le positionner à différents moments de la prise en charge. Et pour le moment, le traitement était clairement identifié comme bénéfique après chez des patients qui ont déjà reçu une ligne d'hormonothérapie en plus de la castration et une ligne de chimiothérapie. Donc ça, c'est le positionnement tel qu'il a été validé. Il n'est pas impossible dans les années à venir que ce traitement soit plus tôt dans la prise en charge des patients. Ça dépendra des résultats d'études qui sont encore en cours. Mais ça, c'est l'évolution un peu naturelle de tous les traitements oncologiques, c'est-à-dire que les traitements sont positionnés à un moment donné. Alors, quand il y a déjà un arsenal thérapeutique assez large, ce qui était quand même le cas pour le moment dans les cancers de prostate, les nouveaux traitements, ils sont d'abord testés un peu en dernière intention, quand les autres traitements n'ont plus fait leur effet. Puis, petit à petit, quand ils montrent vraiment des bénéfices importants, on les ramène plutôt dans le panel thérapeutique. Et donc, c'est ce qui est en train de se passer. Mais donc, pour le moment, il reste remboursé en troisième intention après une ligne d'hormonaux et une ligne de chimio.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vanhaudenarde, for these very clear answers. And I'd like to take the opportunity to mention that if you are looking for such a holistic cancer support centers, we invite you to get in touch with the Oncidium community, who is connecting people living with cancer to supportive spaces and network of dedicated individuals. As radioligand therapy becomes more widely used, it also brings some practical challenges. And while this treatment option has shown very promising results and is supported by many studies, getting access to it isn't always easy, depending on where you are in the world. Dr. Briers, thank you very much for being with us today. You are the Vice Chairman of Europa Uomo and also Vice President of Withofs, both prostate cancer patient association, and you are very active at the European level in patient coalition, association, and patient advocacy movement. You have a PhD in chemistry, and also you were the CEO of a biotech company. And your strong commitment began after your own prostate cancer was diagnosed in 2001. So, Dr. Briers, could you shortly share your journey and why are you advocating about radiotherapeuticals?
Okay, so my journey in prostate cancer started in 2001, as you said, with the diagnosis of high-risk prostate cancer, which means that immediate and active treatment is needed. In my case, it was surgery. Surgery went well with the normal side effects, which are not pleasant, but they were there, and we overcome that. But at the same time, just 1 year, the same year as my surgery, 2002, it was in fact my surgeon, Professor Van Poppel, who proposed me to join a group of representatives of European patient organizations to help them create Europa Uomo, so the umbrella organization. It took some time, and in 2004 we formally created Europa Uomo as a European umbrella organization, a little bit like Europa Donna for breast cancer, to serve men with prostate cancer. And since then I am involved at European level and at the Belgian level in the patient organizations. My interest, of course, is from my background is in research, in monitoring research, in the evidence gathering, and as such I am since 2013 a member of the European Association of Urology Guidelines Panel, which means that we look at all the evidence that's forming on the treatment of prostate cancer and modifying, based on the evidence, the guidelines for the treatment of prostate cancer. So that way I am rather early met the new techniques in nuclear medicine, as well for imaging, as for the therapeutic possibilities. And as a chemist, that is very much on my street, so I'm interested in that. And also because this is again giving patients in a difficult situation a possibility for a new therapy that may give them a little more time for their treatment to live with good quality of life. Because these patients today, they are all end of treatment, unfortunately.
Thank you, Dr. Briers. Could you please now explain how do patient advocacy groups help improve access to new advanced treatments?
It is something, it's sometimes quite complex because new treatments, they have a long waiting time because before they even can come to patients. There is, there is of course the clinical trial, and in the clinical trial, patients are recruited. So this is for a limited number of patients, and we can eventually help patients find the clinical trial. But that is not so easy because these trials go over many countries, many research centers. So there's no shortcut. But once there is a market authorization, or there is a market authorization coming, we already get evidence that there is of this new treatment, and we can look how much this is needed for our patients, because for us it's important that patients have this benefit and that they have it quickly. So we will be eventually, like myself, involved in a guidelines committee where we can already hear what's happening and see how good is the evidence being enough to put it in guidelines, because that is a necessary step. Then we have the market authorization, where we have no influence, because that's the European Medicines Agency for Europe. And then we have the access in the countries. And that's where the problems usually are. So we have a product, we have a good medicine, we know the evidence, we know for which patients, we know that there are patients, but there is no reimbursement. And the different countries, because this is in Europe member state, they all have individually to find out about the medicine and about how much they would reimburse it, if they reimburse it. And that's where we can play, but mildly. Some countries have patients involved in this and others don't. But it is a member states issue, and it's really difficult to get them all at the same plate. Health technology assessment is not a European issue. It is something also for the member states so far. So that's why we help, and we can also help, which is something we do in Belgium, by getting involved in the national plans to make nuclear medicine more accessible and the treatment. And that's what we did in Belgium. So we know what's going to happen, and we are in the committee to work on it and to work on improving the access.
So we hear your message loud and clear. Whatever we do, we should involve the patients. Could you please elaborate a bit on what you see as a main barrier preventing patient accessing these treatments more effectively? And in your opinion, what are the biggest obstacles?
So if you look at an innovative treatment, there's always the issue that it is only tested in clinical trials in a limited number of countries. Market authorization is not something that Europe is making for the rest of the world. We have had, the FDA is known, Canada, they all have their own systems. And we have countries that look at these organizations. So already from that point of view, it is not something that happens overnight. Then to get access, it is in any country, Europe or outside of Europe, it's always the same. A new medicine has to be accepted in the healthcare system of that country. And that means that because these medicines, the new medicines, are all quite expensive, and that is the aspect of affordability. And some countries, they will have difficulties in financing to buy these innovative medicines. And it's not only radioligand therapy, it's also the other innovative treatments. So there has to be means to overcome this. And in our rich countries, we have means to overcome this. But in countries that have not the amount of money that we have, it's much more difficult to get this done. And in some countries, it is purely that non-governmental organizations have to step in to make it possible for patients to get access. And the other issue then to get it to these patients is, of course, do we get the product in? Because the production of these products is, let's say, close to their market. So you can find a production plant in Europe, you can find a production plant in US, but maybe not in Argentina or in South Africa they have. So the logistics of products with a shelf life of 7 days, where they lose half of their activity, is an issue and is difficult. It's doable, but it's not easy and it's expensive. Then the other thing that is a problem, and that's also a problem here, is this very specific nature of these new medicines. It is a radioactive product. So in many countries, there are special laws to protect the population from radioactivity. But these same laws make it very difficult to use these as medicines. You have the aspect of delivering, special access, and you have the aspect of what does a patient do during treatment and after? Does he need special room in the hospital with lead walls, for instance? How long does he have to stay? And then are there enough rooms to treat patients once the therapy is being introduced like in the West? So there are quite a few issues, and you can have the special rooms, then you need the specially trained personnel. Not everyone can administer these medicines, so it is a very complex puzzle, and this puzzle has to be put in every country, and not every country has the tools, the people, the means to do that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Briers, for your dedication for the prostate cancer patients worldwide. Yes. And I take the opportunity here to mention that if you are looking for a treatment center, the nearest treatment center from home, you can find the list on the website of the Oncidium Foundation. Before concluding, I'd like to mention that this program has been brought to you by the Oncidium Foundation, an international non-profit organization that collaborates with over 110 physicians worldwide. The Oncidium Foundation focuses on developing access to radioligand therapy and works actively to raise awareness, educate, and support research. Additionally, the Foundation provides financial support to patients who cannot afford it in countries where there is no reimbursement. So if you'd like to support the Oncidium Foundation, you can find all related information on our website. Well, we have reached the end of our program. We hope that these explanations and testimonials have provided you with a clear understanding of radioligand therapy for prostate cancer, and more importantly, that they have brought you hope. Above all, be sure to discuss this with your doctor. And the more awareness we create, the more this technology can evolve and become accessible to a larger number of people worldwide. So please share this video to help other patients. We hope this video answered most of your questions, but please do not forget that you can anytime send your questions to the email address care@oncidium-life.org. And thanks to our worldwide network of ambassadors, we will provide you with the most accurate answer based on your country. On behalf of the Oncidium Foundation, I would like to thank everyone who contributed to the creation of this video. Thank you all for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you soon for the second episode of the RLT Channel, where we will be talking about neuroendocrine tumors. See you soon and take care.